Hey everyone, I'm Bill. I'm with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage, and welcome back to another do-it-yourself video with the Streetfighter V4 S. Today we are pulling off the wheels on the Streetfighter, and we're getting new tires put on. We've got some new Michelins down here, and so I figured I'd walk you guys through and take you guys along with me on pulling the single-sided swing arm wheel off and the fronts off. So we're gonna do a little do-it-yourself. So let's get to what we need in the removal of the rear wheel. Now, what I've done is I've already pre-purchased from Bellissimoto. Has this really cool tool. There's a lot of different tools out there, but this one is like, it's about 35 bucks, and it's a rear and front nut tool. You're gonna need an impact wrench for the rear with some good air pressure. And you're going to need, of course, your torque wrench for 175 pound-feet in the rear, and we'll get all the specs. I've also got a little breaker bar just to make sure. And then for the front, again, you're going to need the nut. You're going to need the little pinch bolts. And I actually have different caliper bolts. I have the titanium bolts courtesy of V4 Evo, so big shout out to him, thank you so much. These are the titanium bolts, so I'm running 12 millimeters on these. So we are going to have to take the calipers off, take the front wheel off, but we're going to start on the back wheel where we just have the single nut. So we want to get the back wheel on the stand. Then you want to put the front wheel on the stand. Now I've got the nice pit bull stand that actually just mounts, like it just sets right here. So you definitely want to be careful around this. You don't want to rock the bike. Don't get on the bike. Be careful around the bike, please. But let's go ahead and pound out the back one first. Then we'll get the front ones off. We're going to head to Corey's shop over at Some F and Motorcycle Shop tomorrow, and he's going to bust these tires off. We're going to be back installed, and we'll get these new shoes broken in no time. Alright guys, so the first thing, actually I forgot needle nose pliers, so we want to grab the little retaining clip off the back. So we just actually pull this clip right out. I think you can do it without it, but you're going to pull the retaining clip out first, okay? And then you're going to take your socket here and go ahead and get it aligned onto your rear nut, and get your impact gun in there. Obviously make sure we're in reverse, full blast, and away we go. Alright, so we got it broken loose, and now my understanding is once this comes off, you're going to have your washer. Let's turn that up there. You've got a washer in here, so the wheel should actually come off, but you want to make sure you've got the little spacer and the washer. So these are the two things that are coming off with the wheel. I mean, that's probably, wait, I have to say, that's probably the easiest rear wheel that I've ever taken off. So you've got the retaining clip and the little spacer cone in there. And so we're going to set this nice and aside, and that's it. That's the absolute easiest rear wheel I've ever removed. So let's head to the front, and a little bit more time back there, or up there, and we'll get the front calipers taken off, front wheel taken off, and then over to Corey's tomorrow. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do up in the front wheels is we're going to take the brake rotors off. The brake rotors have to come off. Don't try not to take them off. They have to come off, okay? So like I said, I've got the titanium bolts on there courtesy of V4 Evo, and so we're going to pull those off. Now I also have the spacers in there, so you want to make sure you don't drop the spacers. So we'll start at the bottom, and we'll take the bottom one and crack it loose. And then we'll take the top one off. So get that. And we're going to pull all of them, both of them completely out. So we're going to take our spacers, keep them in there, and then here. Now, word of advice, caution, put a Post-it note or something on the brake lever. Do not pull the brake lever when you pull the calipers off, okay? Because the it'll push the pads together. Now you got to split them apart and everything. So I like to grab a towel, and as we wrap this, and we gently, carefully pull the rotors, the calipers off the rotors. We want to make sure we don't ding up the wheel, and wrap this thing up so that way we just don't get any dings or anything like that. And then we're going to move to the other side. All right, now we're on the other side. Now there's method to the madness of why we started on the throttle side and now we're on the clutch side. We get that off because now we're going to be working on the pinch bolts, which are underneath, afterwards. So we're going to take the caliper off, loosen our pinch bolts, take our axle nut off, then go to the other side, loosen those pinch bolts, and be able to pull the axle off. So again, before we get too far into it, we're going to go ahead and loosen our caliper bolts, loosen the bottom, and then remove the top. Now you guys have, I believe they are 6 millimeters. They may be 8 millimeter hex nuts for the calipers. So you guys will be a little bit different. I've got, again, the 12 millimeter titaniums, which are super, super cool. Again, I have to give a huge shout out to V4 Evo for those bolts. They are super, super nice. And of course, very lightweight. I also have the same frame bolts, titanium frame bolts. So, all right, so got these. And again, now what we want to do is be very careful to get these off of the rotor. I think I can't do it with the towel, but we just want to work it so it just pops off, and then wrap it up so it doesn't bang or clack or anything like that. Okay, so now we've got, this is our 6 millimeter Allen hex. If you guys can get that in focus. But there are 2 pinch bolts down here on the bottom. So what we are going to be doing is loosening them on this side. Okay. And we don't need to remove them, we just need to loosen them. And what that's going to do is that's going to free up our axle nut. So now we've got our 1/2 inch and our axle nut here. And we're going to go ahead and crack this loose. And it shouldn't really be on there that tight. I've got all the torque specs down below. But we're going to go ahead and remove the nut. And there should be a little washer spacer in here, which we want to keep on there. Okay. And then now we're going to move to the other side and loosen the other pinch bolts up. Then the axle shaft will be able to come out. The wheel will slide right out. We'll be ready for new tires. All right, so last little pinch bolt. So we're going to remember to do these last, because if you don't do these last, then they will just rotate the axle shaft. So we want to do these last. And again, we're just loosening them. We don't need to remove them. And then now our axle shaft is going to be free, and we're going to kind of pound it out with a little mallet from this end through, and it'll come right out. All right, so I've got actually a little kind of 1/2 inch extension, which actually fits really nice in that axle. So what I'm able to do is we're going to put our foot underneath the wheel. We're going to push this out so you can see that axle's coming out. Now we can grab the axle, and this is going to go all the way out. And now you've got a couple spacers. So what I'm fighting with right now is the spacers. So you've got 2 spacers. There we go. And out we come. So you've got a large one, which we're going to keep on this side of the bike to remind us this spacer goes on this side. And then we've got a small spacer that goes on the other side. So you can see the difference between the two. Okay, make sure you take these off before you take your wheels in. Don't take your wheels with these spacers in there. They can get lost, and if you do, you're in big trouble. Make sure you remember which way they go, okay? So I go down to the way that goes in, okay? And there's our wheel. And we're ready to roll. Alright guys, so we are back and we've got our Michelin Power RSs all mounted up, courtesy of some effing motorcycle shop up in Sacramento. Thank you, Corey. So now we get to putting them back on, and some of the biggest things that we're going to have to do is torque specifications. And Ducati's really big on torque specifications, so much so that I have 8 pages of torque specifications. I'll link this in all the description down below. But I have obviously centered out all of the torque specifications for the front and the rear. And again, I'll link them down below. But the calipers, we're doing 45 Newton meters or 33 pound-feet of torques for the caliper bolts. The axle bolt, we're doing 63 nanometer or Newton meters, 46 pound-feet of torque. The pinch bolts was probably the most unknown, because there's 2 specifications, 19 Newton meters or 8 Newton meters, and there's a guy that actually does 19 and he snaps the bolt off. So I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna kind of go in between. I'm gonna do 10 pound-feet of torque is what I'm gonna do for the pinch bolts. And the rear axle is a lot, 230 Newton meters or 170 pound-feet of torque for the back axle nut. So but getting the wheels back on, we want to make sure that we obviously have it in the right rotation. The Marchesini wheels is really nice because they actually give you the rotation here. So you can actually see the arrows are pointing this way, which is the way that the wheel is going to rotate. Okay, so this is going to go on the forward side. Now, remember your spacers. So you've got your larger spacer, which is going to slide in here on your, I'm looking at the front of the bike, the right side. And then on the left side, you've got your smaller spacer, which is going to go on the other side. Now, the smaller spacer is a little bit loose, so what we're going to do is, once we kind of work this in, we're going to use our foot to leverage the tire up to get it into position, and the axle, kind of the whole axle bolt goes all the way through. So we're going to slide it up into position, make sure that our spacers are good and in there, and then slide the axle through. So you'll see that, get it in here. Now the spacers, biggest pain in the butt, because they're going to continue to come out until you kind of get it into position. And then once you get it into position, they shouldn't come out. All right, so a little fussing getting the axle in is a little tight, so I use a little bit of mallet just to push it in on the left side here. Gets it all the way through, and you'll see we've got our axle exposed over here. So now what we want to do is, some people will say 2 different things. Some people will say don't pinch the left side to tighten it, but that's how we loosened it, so that's how I'm going to tighten it. So what I'm going to do is on the left side, I'm actually going to tighten the pinch bolts, which is going to hold that axle in, and we're going to tighten it just enough so it doesn't rotate. That way it gives us our ability to put the axle nut on, and there is a washer on that axle nut, so make sure you've got that washer on there. And we're going to go ahead and get this hand tight, and then get a few turns on the normal, just the normal wrench, just to kind of get it so it's tight. And then what we're going to do is the axle bolts are, the front axle bolt is 46 pound-feet of torque. So we're going to go ahead and grab our torque wrench and crank this up to 46 pound-feet. So I am looking for a digital one. Actually, a guy replied, because I was saying I was thinking about getting a digital one, and he he posted up this really old school one. I remember using one back in high school. Apparently they're really precise, but they are not as easy to use as the clickers or the electronic ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull this in small bursts until we click, okay? And that's it. So now we've got, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the torque wrench down to 12 pound-feet of torque. So we're at 0, 10, 12. And now we're going to torque up the 4 pinch bolts on the bottom. Now, these are, there's one guy online that he actually snapped one off at 19 pound-feet of torque. So, or excuse me, 14. So, just nice and easy. And that's it. Come over here. Alright, that's it. So the wheel is now on and free moving. Now we're going to move to the calipers. Again, hopefully you guys didn't pull that brake lever. It's very common that we just, it's inherent. It's kind of like a drill. I saw a meme the other day that when you grab a drill, you always pull the trigger twice. I don't know, we all do it. I don't know why, but we inherently just grab the brake lever. I'm going to show you guys a quick little tool. You can get these off Amazon, and they're brake pad spreaders. So it's really nice because you've got the thin side for the motorcycles and the big side for the cars. They go in between, and then it's real nice because it just spreads those brake pads out for you. So we're going to go ahead and unwrap this side, and we've got our caliper. A quick little wipe while we're in here. Make sure we got all the fairly new, but just over 2,000 miles on these, so nothing major. And we're going to make sure that we don't pound them against the wheel, obviously. Now remember, we've got spacers, so we've got our bolts and spacers. So we've got the spacers that we put on the bolts, remember. These go in between, so you're going to go bolt on the end, spacer in between, and then go ahead and finger tight and get this one started, and then move to the other one. Again, spacer in between. Now if you guys are looking and you guys notice a little bit different from what you guys see, the reflector usually goes here. So Hey, there's one of our cats. Willie! Willie, come here. Meow, come here. He's our indoor cat. He's not supposed to be outside, but somebody left the back door open probably. You'll probably see a black one come through too because we've got a... Come here, buddy. What's up, Willie? Come here. All right, so our calipers are 33 pound-feet of torque. So what we're going to do is set this. $30 and 3 and tighten. Remember when you grab your torque wrench, if you have one of these older ones that click, that we're holding from the bottom, and don't hold it up here because the clicking is down below. So there we go. And there we go. And to the other side we go. All right, so again, careful around the wheel. Slide them on. Spacers, remember the spacers. All right, and then we'll torque. All right, that's it. The front is completely done. We're gonna move the torque wrench to the back, and we can go ahead and take this off the front stand now, just to kind of give us a little bit more stability in the back, and then we'll get the back wheel put on. All right, for the rear wheel, pretty simple as it was to come off, should be going on. Now, a couple things, there's obviously these 4 little prongs back here. You'll see that there's 4 little prongs here. They're gonna marry and meet up with these 4 prongs. Make sure that you've got them in the prongs and you don't have them in here because that can cause a slippage. So this is gonna actually really hold that wheel on. So we wanna make sure these are upright. I'm gonna make sure that these are upright. And you're gonna lift the wheel in. And right on. And then remember, we've got a couple things. We've got our cone and our washer. Okay, washer stays on the top, so the cone just basically goes in, washer goes in, nut goes on. And then of course remember, Moto has these. I think Moto Wheel has a couple of them. There's a couple different versions. I think there's one that's made out of solid titanium and blah, blah, blah. The $36 one from Moto is absolutely perfect. So get it nice and hand tight. And then now the trick. So first we got to get this thing way up to 170 pound-feet of torque, which is almost max this out. So we're going to go all the way up, 70, there. All right, so here is the trick. We're going to use our rear brake to hold the wheel. So by yourself, it's a little tricky, but let's see if we can finagle it. So you obviously see that the wheel's going to move. So don't put it in gear because you don't want to put the pressure on the gearbox. You can take it down off the stand, but you're going to probably slip the wheel. The wheel will probably start to slip. So the rear brake is basically the best way to go. So you're going to stomp on the rear brake. Yes, 170 pound-feet of torque is a lot. I can't even get good leverage. That's it. Now, in theory, they say, which it didn't work, they say 170 pound-feet of torque should align the holes just enough to put the clip in. I'm just slightly off. The clip won't go in on that side, nor will it on this side. Actually, there it is. So, we're going to grab the clip, put it into the hole. It might be a little bit off. Nope, there we go. And we're gonna wrap this. Let's see how this thing goes. New to the whole clip thing. There we go. There we go. There we go. So we've got our clip retained. Everything is good. Our rear wheel is torqued. Clips on. Everything's good. Now, of course, before we go on our ride, by the way, we are heading to Skaggs Road. It's somewhat world famous. I haven't been there in years. Bogdan has never been there. We're going to be heading out today, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and of course, leave me a comment down below if there's any questions. I am going to, in the comment, pin all of the torque specifications for you guys. But right now is a perfect opportunity for you to go through the bike, make sure that everything is looking good. Kind of like a 2,000-3,000 mile kind of reservice. Look at everything, make sure there's nothing loose. Really keep an eye on everything on the bike, maintenance-wise, because obviously you don't want to be out on the road and have an issue. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I hope this was helpful to get you guys pulling your wheels off. Oh, by the way, cost-wise and savings-wise, dealers will typically charge you between $50 and $100 per wheel if you take them your own tire, which you'll save the money on the tires by buying them yourself. But if you take them the bike and they take the tires off themselves, they're going to basically make up the difference. I spent just over $300 for the set of these Power RS tires, and it was, I believe, $30 per wheel to swap them out. So there's 60 bucks, opposed to dealers go again from 50 to 100 per wheel on the bike. So, you know, a day of my time, not really a day of my time, couple hours and some travel to the place, and we got them swapped out, and we're ready to ride. So comment down below if you guys have any questions. Of course, the like button. More important than you guys know, smash the subscribe button, bell notifications, so you guys know when we're uploading videos. But Skaggs video is coming soon, so make sure you guys stay tuned, and we'll see you next video. Bye, guys.